The 9th Street Italian market woke early, as it always did, with crates being stacked, steel shutters being lifted, and the familiar cries of vendors filling the morning air with a rhythm older than any gangster who ever walked the block. The smell of peppers, fish on ice, fresh bread, and exhaust mingled together into a tapestry that defined this part of South Philadelphia. To the locals, the market was a daily ritual. To the mob, it was a neutral zone, public, open, predictable. Too predictable, Salvi Testa would later realize. By the early afternoon, the street was alive. Tourists drifted between stalls, old Italian men argued about soccer, and butchers hosed down concrete stained by decades of business. Salvatore Salvi Testa, feared hitman, son of the murdered boss Phil Testa, and one of the youngest mob leaders the city had ever seen, stood out only because he didn't care to blend in. He sat on a wooden crate outside a seafood stall, a bowl of fresh clams resting on another crate turned sideways. He wore white tennis gear, casual and loose, as if he was simply another neighborhood kid enjoying his day. He cracked a clam open with his fingers, slurping it down before tossing the shell aside. His expression was relaxed, almost too relaxed for a man who had been inches from death for months. Vendors joked with him, familiar with his presence. Even comfortable with it. One seafood vendor called out, wiping his hands on his apron, "Sal, if you're going to eat all the profits, at least let me charge you this time." Salvi smirked, lifting a clam. "I'll pay you when you learn how to cook these right." The vendor scoffed. "Cook? You eat 'em raw like a barbarian." For a moment, the world felt normal. But beneath the surface, beneath the laughter and street noise, danger had already entered the market. Danger carried in the engine of a faded green sedan rolling slowly down 9th Street. Inside the car sat Joseph Padilla at the wheel, and Victor DeLuca beside him, each man gripping the edge of his seat with the tense readiness of soldiers about to charge into enemy fire. They had been driving loops around the market for nearly 20 minutes, waiting for Salvi to settle, waiting for the crowd to move just enough, waiting for the clean shot Harry Riccobini wanted. Salvi Testa had attempted to kill Harry. Salvi was the hammer of the Scarfo regime. Hitting him wasn't just revenge, it was declaration. Padilla kept his eyes forward, heart pounding. DeLuca held the shotgun low beneath the window, the blue steel shimmering faintly in the midday sun. "There," DeLuca said, his voice tight. "He's still sitting there. Eat your clams, you little prick. Just sit still." Padilla exhaled through his nose, adjusting his grip on the steering wheel. "We only got seconds once we turn," he muttered. "Make 'em count." DeLuca racked the shotgun once. The metallic click was swallowed by the noise of the market. He breathed. "Harry wants this. Harry needs this. You saw how they came for him. 5 shots. He's still bleeding from it." Padilla nodded. When the car turned the corner, time seemed to slow. The sedan rolled past vendors, past crates of grapes and tomatoes, past hanging sausages and cheese wheels. Customers didn't notice it. Nobody did. Nobody except Salvi Testa, whose instinct ticked like a metronome in his skull. A subtle engine hum. A tiny shift in the crowd's rhythm. His mind tingled. Something was off. Salvi paused with a clam halfway to his mouth. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the street. He saw the sedan. Saw movement in the passenger seat. Saw the muzzle emerging. Salvi whispered, "Ah, fuck!" The shotgun thundered before he could finish. The first blast tore through the air, exploding into Salvi's chest and knocking him backward off the crate. The clams flew across the pavement as his back slammed into the concrete. A scream cut through the market. Vendors dove for cover. Shoppers shrieked. Produce overturned, peppers and lemons scattering under flipping tables. The second blast ripped apart the wooden crate he had been sitting on, splinters flying like shrapnel. Salvi tried to roll, gasping, blood spreading across his white clothes in widening blooms. His mind raced. Move, move, move. But his body refused. DeLuca pumped the shotgun again, yelling over the chaos, "Finish him!" Padilla accelerated, getting closer. DeLuca leaned out the window, sighting Salvi as he struggled to crawl behind an overturned plastic bin. The third shot hit the pavement inches from Salvi's hand, spraying debris into his face. The force of it knocked the wind out of him. He reached for his waistband, where a pistol was holstered, but his arm shook violently. He couldn't lift it. People were screaming everywhere, vendors ducking behind stands, women pulling children into storefronts, an old man crying out in Italian as he stumbled away from the carnage. The market had transformed from a buzzing neighborhood hub into an open war zone. Padula yelled, "Hit him again!" DeLuca's face twisted with anger as he chambered another round. He leaned out even farther, the car swerving slightly as pedestrians darted away. The fourth shot blasted into a seafood display, sending crushed ice and broken shells flying across the street. A fisherman ducked, screaming, "Madonna mia!" Salvi's vision blurred. He tasted blood, hot, metallic, choking. He tried to drag himself behind a vendor cart, fingers slipping on the slick pavement. His mind flickered between consciousness and blackness. He heard the car speeding past him now, the engine roaring away. Heard DeLuca's voice fading. "That's for Harry, you Scarfo piece of shit." The sedan fishtailed at the corner before disappearing down Washington Avenue. The market fell into stunned silence for a moment, long enough for the dust to settle, long enough for those who survived to peek over crates and counters. Salvi Testa lay on the ground, half curled, blood pooling beneath him like ink spilled on white fabric. A vendor rushed to him, trembling. Sal, can you hear me?" Salvi's lips moved, barely. A faint wheeze came out, no words. His eyes rolled back, then forward again, then back. Another man shouted, "Call the cops! Someone call the fucking cops!" But there was a different kind of fear in the market. Fear of being seen helping a mobster who belonged to Scarfo. People hesitated. Moments passed. Blood flowed. Finally, a young delivery driver ran to a payphone, slamming his fist against the buttons as he shouted the address into the receiver. Before the ambulance arrived, 2 women knelt beside Salvi, one sobbing, one praying. "He's just a boy," the older woman whispered. "Madonna, he's just a boy." Sirens grew louder in the distance. 2 police cars screeched onto the scene, followed by an EMS van. Officers jumped out, guns drawn, expecting the shooters to still be nearby. As they assessed the chaos, paramedics rushed to Salvi. One paramedic pressed fingers to his neck, shouting, "He's alive! Weak pulse!" An officer surveyed the damage, the broken seafood stand, the exploded crates, the terrified vendors. He muttered, "This wasn't a robbery. This is Riccobini versus Scarfo. Jesus Christ, it's open season." Paramedics loaded Salvi onto a stretcher. Blood smeared across their gloves. Salvi twitched once, eyes fluttering, before going still again. As they lifted him into the ambulance, one paramedic said to the other, "If he makes it, it'll be a goddamn miracle." The ambulance sped away, weaving through traffic. Behind them, the 9th Street Market, usually loud, vibrant, alive, stood in a broken silence. Crates overturned, blood on the ground. Clams scattered like debris from an explosion. Not one person doubted what the shooting meant. It was retaliation for Harry Riccobene. Lightning answering lightning. Blood answering blood. News spread within hours. Soldiers from both sides whispered about the audacity of it, hitting Salvi Testa in broad daylight, in the middle of the market, in front of dozens of witnesses. Back in Atlantic City Jail, Scarfo heard the news during afternoon count. He leaned closer to Leonetti through the bars. "They shot Salvi," Leonetti said. Scarfo absorbed the words like poison, letting them sink deep before responding. His voice was low, controlled, deadly. "Hit them back," he said, hard. South Philadelphia was no longer drifting toward war. It was in it, fully, violently, publicly, and the bodies would only continue to fall. The ambulance tore across the Benjamin Franklin Bridge like a streak of red lightning, sirens screaming into the night as paramedics hovered over Salvatore Salvi Testa, their gloves slick with blood. Salvi drifted in and out of consciousness, his breath rasping like air squeezing through broken glass. The shotgun pellets had torn into his chest and side, shredding muscle and cracking ribs. Every bump in the road sent a shockwave through his body. But even through the haze of pain, Salvi tried to speak. One paramedic leaned close. "Save me," Salvi whispered, though he wasn't begging. He was commanding. They wheeled him into Jefferson Hospital under flashing lights, nurses already preparing blood bags and oxygen. A doctor barked orders. "Get him into trauma. Push 2 liters now," as the team flooded around the gurney. Salvi's head lolled to the side, eyes half open, watching blurry figures move with rapid precision. For a moment, memories flickered. His father Phil Testa smiling at a Sunday dinner, Scarfo's voice ordering the death ledger, Harry Rickabene's crooked silhouette. Then everything went white. Hours passed. When Salvi finally woke, he lay in a recovery room under harsh fluorescent lights. Tubes connected to his arms, a bandage wrapped across his torso. His chest rose with shallow, painful breaths. The world felt distant, muted, but he sensed movement in the hallway. Heavy footsteps, a door opening, a familiar shadow darkening the room. Nicodemo, little Nicky Scarfo, entered like a storm given human form. He closed the door behind him slowly, almost gently, as if trying to contain the rage boiling inside him. His small frame trembled with energy that had nowhere to escape. Philip Leonetti followed, expression cold, eyes fixed on Salvi, with the kind of loyalty only forged in blood. Scarfo approached the bed, staring at Salvi's bandaged chest. "You're lucky," he said in a voice that barely carried. "Lucky those 2 cocksuckers didn't aim better." Salvi tried to smirk, but the pain forced a grimace instead. "I should have seen him earlier," he rasped. "DeLuca, Padula, those fucks came right up on me." Scarfo's face contorted. "You got hit in the heart of our neighborhood, in broad daylight, while you were eating clams like nothing could touch you." He leaned closer, the venom rising. Harry Riccabini sent those 2 animals to make a statement, and they made it. Leonetti stepped closer. "We already got word on where DeLuca's been hiding. He won't last long." Scarfo slammed his fist against the metal rail of Salvi's bed, the sound echoing off the sterile walls. "Not long? Not long. They shot my boy." His voice cracked, not in weakness but in fury so intense it shook his entire body. "They shot you, Sal. You, my best man, my future." Salvi's eyes were steady, even through the pain. "I'm not dead." Scarfo's breathing slowed, but the fire didn't fade. He placed a hand on Salvi's arm, an uncharacteristic gesture. "You rest, you heal, and while you're lying here, we're going to answer this shot with a goddamn war. Start with Sammy Tamburino. He knows too much. And Bobby Riccabene? He's stupid, he's hot, he'll run. Make sure he doesn't get far." Scarfo's eyes gleamed. "He won't." He leaned closer until his face hovered inches from Salvi's. "I promise you something, kid. Before you leave this hospital, the men who pulled the trigger on you will be buried in 2 holes so deep even the worms will need a map." Salvi whispered, "Good." Scarfo stood, straightened his coat, and turned to Leonetti. "Let's go. There's work to do." As they left the room, Scarfo muttered a final vow, spoken not to the world but to the violence that lived inside him. They wanted war. I'll give 'em a fucking war. In the weeks that followed the Italian market shooting, Philadelphia transformed into a city living in a heartbeat of fear. Soldiers from both factions began traveling in pairs, checking their rearview mirrors every 10 seconds, ducking into alleys when headlights followed too closely. The old code of silence had grown teeth, and every whisper carried the vibration of danger. Salvi Testa lay recovering in Jefferson Hospital, but his presence still loomed over the streets, because the men who loved him, feared him, and followed him now carried the torch in his absence. They were known as Scarfo's young executioners, a new generation bred not under Bruno's diplomacy, but under Scarfo's ruthless doctrine. These men didn't negotiate, they didn't warn, they didn't hesitate. And their revenge began with Sammy Tamburino. Tamburino had once been loyal to Scarfo, then switched to Harry Riccabene's camp, then attempted to drift back, mistaking the war for a game of musical chairs. Scarfo didn't tolerate sloppiness, and Salvi, still bandaged in a hospital bed, had named Tamburino as one of the first to go. On a muggy night in southwest Philadelphia, Sammy walked into a small arcade and the chirping sounds of old game machines. Children played pinball, Teenagers hovered over Pac-Man consoles. Sammy thought he was safe here. He was wrong. Philip Narducci entered through the back door, face emotionless, hands already tucked into his jacket. Faffy Annarella followed him, jaw clenched. The arcade owner recognized them instantly and slipped quietly into the back room, locking the door. Tamburino saw them moments too late. He whispered, "Oh no." Narducci's pistol flashed. The bullet struck Sammy in front of arcade machines and teenagers, his body collapsing beside a claw machine filled with stuffed animals. Screams filled the room. Kids ran. One mother shielded her child as Sammy gasped for breath. Iannarella stepped forward, fired once more into Sammy's chest, and said softly, "Nick sends his regards." The two executioners vanished before police arrived. The next target was Bobby Riccobene, Harry's volatile younger brother. Bobby wasn't cautious. He moved openly, emotionally, furious about the attack on Salvi, but too impulsive to realize he was being hunted. When the young executioners finally cornered him near a fence behind a row house, Bobby tried to run. He climbed halfway up before Faffy shot him in the back of the head. Bobby collapsed, draped over the fence like a broken rag. News of his death hit Harry with the force of a hammer. His allies described him as a ghost with fire in his eyes. He tightened his grip on Southwest Philly, refusing to bend, refusing to acknowledge Scarfo's rising power. But Scarfo wasn't finished. The young executioners fanned across the city, picking off anyone tied to Harry Riccobene in the death ledger. Salvi had written. Bookmakers disappeared. Drivers were shot in their cars. A low-level drug runner was found in a vacant lot, rumors suggesting he had begged for his life. No mercy was shown. None was intended. Leonetti coordinated operations from a safe house, directing crews with precision. Narducci and Nicky Whip executed most of the hits personally, earning reputations as the deadliest duo South Philadelphia had produced in a decade. Their efficiency became street legend, and all the while, Scarfo visited Salvi at the hospital, updating him on each kill like a father showing his son test scores. Sammy's gone. Salvi would nod, eyes cold. Bobby's buried. Salvi would smirk through the pain. More to come, Salvi whispered. Good. One night, after another hit made the news, Scarfo stood beside Salvi's bed and said, "You heal up. You'll be back out there soon, and when you are, Harry won't have a single soldier left." Salvi, exhausted but burning with vengeance, muttered, "Make sure DeLuca and Padula die last. I want 'em scared before they go." Scarfo grinned, a wolf's grin, already planned. The war became a machine, its gears grinding flesh, punishing every man who dared stand with the hunchback. The Riccobene faction shrank, morale dropping with every body on the pavement. Some men flipped, some fled the city, some simply vanished from the streets forever. Philadelphia understood what Scarfo's rule meant. This wasn't the diplomacy of Angelo Bruno. This wasn't the cautious stability of Phil Testa. This was blood-based governance, leadership through fear, reputation built through coffins. Salvi Testa, broken but recovering, symbolized the heart of Scarfo's violent future. And Scarfo's young executioners were rewriting the laws of the streets, one corpse at a time. You're watching the Everything Network. Salvatore Salvi Testa, nicknamed the Crowned Prince of the Philadelphia Mob, served as a captain and later acting underboss for the Philadelphia crime family. Testa made his reputation as a hitman for the Philadelphia family during a period of internal gang conflict. The son of former boss Philip, the Chicken Man Testa, Salvatore Testa was an emerging figure in the mob until he was killed on the orders of boss Nicodemo Scarfo. Born on March 31, 1956, in southwest Philadelphia, Testa was the son of Alfia Arcidiacono and Philip Chicken Man Testa, a member of the Philadelphia crime family who served under Angelo Bruno. In 1974, he graduated from St. John Newman High School, and he attended Temple University in Philadelphia for a year before going into the real estate business. Testa had one sister, Maria, who managed a Center City nightclub and restaurant. In March 1980, longtime family boss Angelo Bruno was murdered, and Testa's father became boss. The death of Bruno triggered a violent civil war in the family between factions loyal to Harry Riccobene and Nicodemo, Little Nicky Scarfo, who controlled the family's Atlantic City operations. Testa was inducted as a made man in the Philadelphia branch of Cosa Nostra in June 1980 in an initiation ceremony conducted by Phil Testa and his underboss, Peter Casella. On March 15, 1981, Testa's father returned to his home in South Philadelphia, which was across the street from the scenic Stephen Girard Park. As he was opening the door to his home, a nail bomb exploded under his front porch. His death was allegedly ordered by his underboss and drug trafficker Peter Casella and Captain Frank Narducci Sr., which later resulted in Narducci being gunned down and Casella being banished from the mob and fleeing to Florida. Scarfo took over the crime family following Philip Testa's death, and he promoted Salvatore "Chucky" Merlino to underboss. Testa inherited much his father's loan sharking operations and developed a reputation as a high-earning mafioso. On July 31, 1982, he was wounded near his home in the Italian market section by shotgun blasts fired from a speeding car. The shooting was carried out by Victor DeLuca and Joseph Padula in retaliation for the attempted killing of Harry Riccobene. DeLuca and Padula were convicted of aggravated assault and weapons offences on January 17, 1983. In 1984, Testa broke off his engagement to Merlino's daughter. Enraged, Merlino got permission from Scarfo to murder Testa, despite him being a loyal member of the crime family. However, Merlino developed a drinking problem, which caused Scarfo to demote Merlino and cut off ties with him. In 1984, Scarfo ordered the death of Testa, as Testa's ambition and growing popularity made Scarfo feel threatened. On September 14, 1984, Testa was shot by Salvatore Wayne Grande. He was found shot to death at the side of a road in Gloucester Township, New Jersey. About 300 people attended Testa's funeral procession on September 20, 1984, at St. Paul's Catholic Church in Philadelphia's Italian market section. He was interred alongside his father, Philip, and mother, Althea, at the family plot at Holy Cross Cemetery in Yeadon, Pennsylvania. As a result of Salvatore Testa's murder, Scarfo gained a reputation for disloyalty, and several criminal organizations across the United States began to distrust him.